The Green Bay Packers may have gotten a steal in the 2022 NFL Draft, and his talent has been on full display in training camp and in the preseason. If you are new here, consider subscribing and dropping a like on the video if you guys do enjoy it. We are on the road to 4,000 subscribers, so if you are new to the channel, be sure to hit that button. But with all that being said, let's hop into the video about Romeo Doubs and the Green Bay Packers. It has been a little bit of a weird offseason for the Packers, as they had to get rid of one of their best players in franchise history, Davante Adams. Adams had been a staple for the Packers for many years, and him and Aaron Rodgers emerged as one of the best duos we've seen from a wide receiver and quarterback in a very long time. But with the wide receiver market being reset and players like Tyreek Hill getting over $100 million, the Packers did not have enough money to give Davante Adams, and Adams really didn't want to stay in Green Bay if Aaron Rodgers was not going to be his quarterback. So because of those two problems, the two worked together and found out a trade partner to get Adams paired up with his former college teammate Derek Carr and reunite on the Las Vegas Raiders. Adams, who many see as the best receiver in football, was traded for a first-round pick, which was the 22nd pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, and a second overall pick, number 53, and that was a pretty good haul for one of the elite playmakers in the league. But now that Adams was gone, a pretty weak receiving core that was really carried by Adams was pretty much empty. The Packers had to find some viable targets for Aaron Rodgers, because we all know how great Aaron Rodgers is, the back-to-back NFL MVP, but if he's not throwing to some good targets, the ceiling that he's going to be able to eclipse with those weapons is severely limited, and I think the Packers got the notion as they went into free agency. The first order of business for the Packers was to sign Sammy Watkins to a one-year deal worth up to $4 million. They signed Lazard's tender, brought him back on a one-year deal, and that was pretty much all the work the Packers put in for the wide receiver core in free agency. But lucky for them, the extra capital in the Davante Adams trade set them up pretty nicely for the draft, and that is where they made a lot of their key moves for the wide receiver room. The first acquisition in the draft for the wide receiver position was Christian Watson out of North Dakota State with the 34th pick in the 2022 NFL Draft. Watson was seen as a pretty raw player, but with great measurables, and could develop into a very good wide receiver down the line. Standing at 6'5" with a 4.36 40-yard dash, you can just tell from those numbers that he's an absolute freak of an athlete, and that is why the Packers decided to pick him in the second round as their developmental piece at the wide receiver 1 position. But later in the draft, in the 4th round, that is where the Packers may have gotten the steal of the entire draft when they took Romeo Doubs with the 132nd pick. Now, Doubs was coming out of a pretty small school in Nevada, but he had put up a very nice 4-year stat line there, and I was honestly surprised to see that he went in the 4th round. As a freshman, Doubs had 43 catches for 562 yards and 2 touchdowns. He came back his sophomore year, put together 44 catches for 649 yards and 4 touchdowns, and then he really took off as a junior and senior. As a junior, he eclipsed 1,000 yards for the first time with an insane 17.3 yards per catch with 9 touchdowns, and the best year of his career was his senior season when he had 80 catches for 1,100 yards and 11 touchdowns. So purely off those numbers, you can see Doubs is a very productive college wide receiver, but not playing for a Power 5 conference and not having elite measurables in the combine made Doubs fall down the draft board a little bit, and he practically fell in the Packers' lap. Since arriving to Wisconsin, Doubs' talent has been on full display, and it's really taken the eyes of Aaron Rodgers and the rest of the Packers' coaching staff. Through the first few weeks of training camp, everybody was a little skeptical of how this was going to carry over to pads and the preseason, and he's been nothing short of spectacular since he's gotten more live action against real other teams in the preseason. Through the first couple of weeks of training camp, Aaron Rodgers had a pretty glowing endorsement of him, and this is what really got people to keep their eyes on him. Every single day, there's been at least one kind of wow play from him, Rodgers said, and that's kind of rare for a young guy like that. And from that point forward, people have really been paying attention to what he was able to do in the preseason games, and he did not disappoint one bit. In his first ever NFL game against the San Francisco 49ers, he caught 3 passes for 45 yards and had a touchdown on a deep pass from Jordan Love, which was a very nice play. And he followed it up this past weekend with 3 catches for 24 yards and another touchdown, mossing the Saints defender in the corner of the end zone, a spectacular play once again. Aaron Rodgers came out again a few days ago and said Doubs has done a lot of really nice things. The standard for him is not going to be the standard for a normal rookie here in the past, especially in the last 4 to 5 years. He's going to be expected to play based on his performance so far in camp. We have to hold him to a standard that I know he's capable of reaching. He cares about it. He's a great kid. He's made some instinctual plays that you can't really coach. And those comments from Rodgers on Doubs is definitely not something to overlook, as Rodgers just a week ago called out a lot of the receivers on his team, and I really don't think those comments were directed to Doubs, as he's blatantly come out multiple times in defense of him and has really shown his support as a young wide receiver. But many still still have the question, how is Aaron Rodgers going to perform without his number 1 wide receiver Davante Adams, and how quickly these young guys are going to get adjusted to the NFL speed and what it's like to be a receiver at the next level. Me personally, I think Rodgers is going to come out and start the season on fire. Here's a graphic that shows every game Aaron Rodgers has played without Davante Adams since Adams was drafted by the Packers. It amounts to 11 starts, and you can see just how efficient and good Rodgers has been despite his absence. 24 touchdowns to 3 interceptions, 67% completion percentage, nearly 2,800 yards, and a 112.7 quarterback rating. Has Adams made things easier for Rodgers throughout his tenure? I would say he has, but I don't like the notion that Adams is the reason for Rodgers' MVPs the last couple of years, and all of a sudden, now that he doesn't have Adams, Rodgers is going to fall off a cliff. I do not see that happening whatsoever. I think he's going to be perfectly fine with the young guys and some of the key veterans they have in that room. But what Romeo Doubs has been able to do, I think, is very encouraging for the Packers. Their wide receiver room has a lot of unproven players, but they do have some veterans that can take over early in the season while these young guys develop. Allen Lazard, Sammy Watkins, and Randall Cobb will most likely start the season, and Romeo Doubs, Amari Rodgers, and Christian Watson will get some snaps here and there as they learn the system and get more accustomed to the NFL world. But I definitely believe throughout the NFL season, Doubs will continue to get more snaps, and he'll definitely emerge as a starting wide receiver for the team pretty early on. And I'm also a huge fan of Christian Watson and his upside. He hasn't been able to practice up until recent, and I do not believe he's going to play in the preseason at all. So I do not believe we're going to get a look at him in the offseason, and I expect the Packers to bring him along pretty slowly as he's not been able to get the same number of reps as the other young guys. So I would really look to see Watson make an impact down the road. But Doubs, I'm very excited to see his development and what he's able to become this year for the Packers. I'm very excited to see what this offense is going to look like. The Packers have one of the best running back duos in the NFL with Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. Their offensive line is very solid when healthy, but their 2 key tackles, David Bakhtiari and Elton Jenkins, are still battling back from injury, and we will see if they're completely healthy and ready to go for week number 1. But I expect this offense to continue to hum, and I think there's a real chance Romeo Doubs can be the number 1 wide receiver for the Packers this season. He's been getting a lot of hype recently to potentially win Offensive Rookie of the Year, which I think are crazy expectations for him as he's a 4th-round rookie out of a non-Power 5 conference school. But if he really does emerge as the number 1 target for Aaron Rodgers, it's really not crazy to assume that he will be in the race for that award. I mean, we're talking about the back-to-back MVP of the league, and if he's throwing you 8 to 10 targets a game, you're going to have a successful season. But unlike most people, I'm still a huge believer in the Packers. I do realize the loss of Davante Adams is a pretty big one, but I think what they did to replace him with a lot of young, talented wide receivers, being able to add even more pieces to their defense, I think they could be just as good, if not better, as a team this year and into the future. If you look at the NFC North, it's really a 2-team race once again. I do not believe the Bears or the Lions are going to be a real threat in that division. I think the Lions could be a fairly competitive team this year, win 6 to 7 games. The Bears I see as one of the worst teams in the league, and it's really going to be between the Packers and the Vikings who wins this division. And until the Vikings remove the Packers from the throne, you got to give the odd to the Packers and Aaron Rodgers. But thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you guys are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and drop a like on the video if you guys did enjoy it. Let me know what you think of Romeo Doubs and if you have been impressed with his offseason and preseason so far, or if you need to see more from him in real live regular season games. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.